All right, so these are all the pieces that make up a rear bumper for the 98 to 2011 Ranger. It's 37 pieces. It'll have this cut out for a pod light to be mounted on it, and then it has a shackle mount here for putting a shackle for a recovery point, and then a license plate mount there. So I'll go through here, show you how I put it together, and work it through. So let's get started. All right, so we take the centerpiece right here that's cut out for the license plate. This is going to be actually the top that you'll see of the bumper here. And then the side piece, some of these larger pieces right here. So either side's the same, they're just flipped over from each other. And then I get this back edge straight across here so that's nice and straight. And then what I do is I check on here, right here. And if you hook the outside of that to right here, what you want is, it's like 64 1/32 of an inch. You want to make sure it's less than 16th, 64 1/16. So that's the overall width right there. So what I do now is I'll tack these joints together. I'll put a couple tacks on this joint here and this joint here, and just as I go along and tack it, I'll make sure that stays flush, because this is the side that you'll see once the bumper's done. So I get those tacked up, and then I'll show you what else I have. This is just pieces. You could probably use like a piece of wood, or like a 2x straight piece of 2x, or a piece of angle iron or something. Just something so that you can keep it flat and straight. All right, so what I did next is I flipped over the piece here, put a couple tack welds on the back side here. Hold it for now, that'll eventually get welded up. And then I put in this piece right here, and the little slots that were here, this piece drops inside of that to notch it up. And then I got a 90-degree magnet just holding it in place. And then due to the taper on plasma cut parts, the slot's just slightly bigger than what it really needs to be. So when you fit that in there, you come back through here, and then you measure this right here to make sure that there's 33 1/8 of an inch between the two pieces. So once those are in like that, now I'll put a couple tack welds on each side of these, make sure they stay at a 90, and then move on to the next piece after that. So I'll get those tacked in, show you what's next. All right, so with these tacked on, the next piece is going to go on is the license plate piece. There's no top or bottom, inside or out. They're both, it can go either this way or you can flip it that way, it doesn't really matter. So we'll put this piece in, and then what goes next are these pieces right here. They drop in here and line up on the tabs right there. So each one of these pieces, if you look right here, there's a little knob on it and a knob right there, so that they sit on top of each other to line up. So you can see it how once I insert it, it lines up, it sits on top of the other piece to hold it in place. So I'll put these on both sides like this one here, put that piece in, and this piece goes on the top like this, and then so I'll use some magnets to hold that all together, and I'll show you how that looks. All right, so you can see I got these pieces mocked up. You can see how this piece notches in on the top corners here, and then I got the magnets kind of holding it in place. And then when you come around to the other side here, just make sure that this piece is sitting on top here. Make sure that one's sitting on up there. And then your joints right here are nice. That one up there can be welded once we get it all together. So what I'll do is I'll put this together here, and then I'll put some tack welds on the back side to hold it all together. All right, so I got these pieces all tacked on here, tacked them here, then together here. I left this piece loose so that if I need to make any adjustments later on, I can as I add the rest of the structure to it. So that is the license plate section tack welded on. So then we'll start building out the structure on the side. So what we'll probably do is just build the one side so we can see it, and then we'll come back off camera and build the rest. So I'll start by showing you how one side here goes together. As I start to fit this piece up, what will happen, because we're starting to put three-dimensional shapes together out of two-dimensional flat pieces, is with the tabs I have for stuff to hit, they actually some of these, as you assemble different pieces, will need to be ground down a little bit, because they're big enough so that you can lean against them, but they will end up being in the same spot. So like this piece right now, like it won't fit all the way against there where it should line up. So what needs to happen is these right here, these little tabs right here, need to be ground. And same on, so I'll have to do that on the other side as well. There's a few spots that needs to be done as you go along, just because you got, you know, pieces that aren't fitting together at a perfect 90-degree angle. Like this is, I don't know, 45 degrees or something. So whatever I made, I can't remember. But so I'll just take the flapper wheel, kind of grind these down, bring it in until this piece can kind of fit in there. So I'll show you that. So I put this little that ground just a bit off there, then on those two tabs right there. And then when this piece goes back in, now it pulls in much tighter to that. So it gets rid of that gap at the bottom to weld. So as this piece gets fitted, you'll also notice that there's a pretty good slot on this side over here. So what ends up happening is this gusset piece here that makes up the shackle, this piece actually comes in here as well and slides down here. So this gets lined up with that. So you make sure that goes in on both sides. So then this assembly, once it's all fitted up, I'll tack these pieces all back together. I'll tack this one to here, then this one into here to start bringing out some of the structure. So that's next. So a smaller triangular piece right here, this next piece goes in right here. So as I put it in here, it's because of the angles, it's not quite a 90-degree angle. So what ends up happening is I can't use a magnet to hold it. So what I'll end up doing is wearing my glove, and then I'll just tack weld it, holding it in place while I get nice joints on it. So I'll show you that next. So this is the next piece to put on. So what it does is it slides over the top here, like so. But again, because you're going three-dimensional with two-dimensional pieces, you get kind of an odd gap here, so the pieces don't line up quite right with all these tabs. So same thing, got to grind a little bevel. So like each one of these little tabs right here, these two here, and this one, need a bevel put on them. Same with this one up here, this one, these two up here. So we'll grind a little bit of bevel onto each of those, and then make sure you get this piece so it fits on here and fits up a lot nicer than where I just tossed it on. So that'll be next. So after tack welding this piece on here, the next piece is this guy right here. So this one, once you get this lined up down here, goes in like so. And then while that one's getting aligned, this piece right here is the end. Again, these right here, then the two right here are gonna have to be ground. Again, we're not making a 90, so they need to occupy the same space. So I'll give those a little bit of a grind, but then these two pieces, once they all line up and are grounded, they'll all fit in there. So I'll give those just a little bit of grind on those edges and sneak up on them until I get them fit nice. And then since this isn't 90 still to this either, you kind of gotta hold it, line it up, and get it in place. Real quick before I forget, on this piece here, you notice that this side is smooth here, so that's the bottom. And then obviously this side goes towards the front of the truck because there's not a piece that attaches to it. And then on this one here, it's got the two nubs on it that attach down, that line up right there. So that's what goes into here to get that to line up right there. So get those all ground, get them all cleaned up so it sits up and fits up nice, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so got that end piece tacked on. So then this triangular piece goes right here. So what'll end up happening, obviously, is that gap's not there because same thing. So just have to grind these corners down right here, and then you'll notice that on this piece that it only has those nubs on the one side, which bumps up to that side because this other side ends up being exposed, so that it leaves a smooth edge. So I'll get those ground down and fit it up, and then I'll get this piece tacked on so that it lines up. All right, so after getting this all tacked in, getting this piece on here. So this piece here is the next one right here that goes in. And so it can't go this way. It has to go this way here. So it sits on the front right here, and this goes on here. And what it does is it sits just underneath that. So what I'll do is I will tack weld this on the bottom side. I'll actually, at this point, I'll tack weld this piece on here. And then I will tack weld this piece in right here, and I'll weld from the bottom, so that way that I don't have any welds I really have to grind on this side here. I can keep them there, and then I'll just have this lip showing right here. So let me get this piece in here next. So I got this piece tacked in. I tacked it from the bottom, kind of blindly, so probably not the best tacks under there, but once I flip it over, I'll weld it on the back side there. Right, put a little weld there, and then fill this one in. So what the next piece is this guy right here, this one here. And so what it does is it sits here, because I got multiple dimensions coming in here in different angles, and it's kind of made to be the piece that's on the bottom and out of sight, so you can't really see it. So I use it to adjust any kind of air that's been built up. So you'll notice this end just takes and overhangs a little bit, but there's enough room. So what I can do is grind out probably just a little bit of this corner here, and then maybe I'll come in here and take a little bit of this out, and I can adjust it back in there just a little bit and swing it back up into here to make it line up. So I'll do a little bit of grinding here, a little bit on this corner, and see how it fits in there. So to get this piece to fit in here nice, because yeah, this thing's designed so like if everything was to the thousandths of an inch, so because it's plasma cut, you can't hold, you know, that quite tight of tolerances. I made it so that this back piece here can kind of be made to work all of that out. Plus, this piece ended up not quite 90 degrees. It's off by like a 32nd of an inch, so it kicks this, which kicks that, and kicks this, and so on and so forth. So I ended up having to grind this corner around this corner a little bit, but that's why I designed this kind of the way I did, was so that it could be adjusted. So grind this, put a little bevel across this edge, and I had to grind this back so I could get this to fit in here. So it ends up going up into here like so, and once I get it all in place, then so it goes like that. And so now I will get this piece tack welded in and show you the next one. So got this piece tacked in here so it fits in here. Just got tacks in it right now. So what eventually will happen is this bigger piece right here, what this piece does is it boxes this whole corner in to give it some extra strength. So it's a little bit tight right now, so this will end up going in here, and I'll have to round these corners. I'll do that on the next set once I'll go back and modify my CAD model, and I'll probably shrink this piece down. I'll probably take like a, I don't know, 64th off of it or something, just so that it slides in here a little bit easier and make it fit in here. So that will box that corner in, but I won't put that piece in until I get most of this welded. What I want to do is I want to get this welded in through here. I want to get this piece welded in here, and then get this piece welded in because it's on the back side. So if I put that piece in, I won't be able to box it in. But before I do that, what I'll end up doing real quick is I'll finish off building this side on, and then take it over the truck and test fit it. So once you got the bumper off of here, you also need to make sure you pull these clips that the factory bumper was bolted into. You gotta get those 4 off of here as well. So once you get those off there, now I'll bring the bumper over and bolt it up. So I got the bumper just snugged up on a couple of the bolts holding it in place. So what I did was I lined it up and made sure I measured on both sides from here to here and then here to here to make sure the bumper is even with the bed itself, so that it lines up right, because not all the time these holes are on these ranges were punched in the exact same spot on the frames. So I made sure that like the reveals all look pretty good around here. Obviously this bed's had the bumper bump into it a few times, so it's a little bit tweaked, but moved around, adjusted till I got it about as even as I could get it, and I averaged it out with the errors, And then on the bottom here, this bracket right here with the holes, what it was, I made sure I measured this piece I measured from here to here off the frame to make sure that that was parallel. And then this piece here goes on to here like so. So what I'll do is I'll get this lined up in here and get both sides on and then tack it on, because if your bed's a little bit crooked to your body or not, I can't really, it's got to be adjusted so it slides in and out here, and then I can weld it across right here. So let me get those pieces put on. I'll probably put a couple bolts in it to help hold it in place while I tack weld it on, and then I'll show you what that looks like. So I got this piece tack welded on here on both sides. So now we'll take and pull the bumper off, and we can start doing some more of the major welding on it. So I pulled the bumper off. Now we know it fits nice. We got these pieces here. They go on either side here. So we get a nice, by the time we get down, we get 3/4 of an inch of steel right there we're pulling through, with this piece being the piece actually bolted to the frame. This piece is hooked through the back of the bumper plus welded back there. And then these welded to the face of the bumper. So these ones are just a little bit bigger on the outside of this, so that it leaves a gap in between. So these will go on either side like that. You know, get them lined up so that they line up with the holes, line up with the outside. So it'll sit up just a little bit, like, you know, I don't know if you can really see it, but they end up sitting something like this, just a little bit higher, so that it gives a spot where you can weld all around that. So I'll get these all tacked in on either side and show you that. So to get everything lined up, I just used a couple sets of vice grips right here to hold it on place while I put some tack welds on there. So next, after I got those all on, I'll start going around here and start welding this out. Just kind of skip around, you know, weld a couple inches, skip, move around on that whole bumper, and then start on the back as well. So once I can kind of get these corners like this side and the other side done, then this piece that still needs to go in the back here can be fitted up once I got a little bit of strength in all of this welded. So I'll get a bunch of this welded up, and then I'll show you after I get that welded. So once I pulled this bumper off the truck, came back over here and I put a, you know, spot weld around it and put welded, but I made sure I welded up this piece back here. That's part of the shackle mount. And then I welded on the bottom side of all of this right here. So what that did is that made it everywhere that I couldn't get a weld in once I put this end piece in. So then I took this end piece right here, this piece right here that goes like so. I put that in here. So I do a little bit of grinding to make sure it fit, and I want it nice and tight. So I snuck it in here, so I got a 90-degree magnet on it around the corners. So it's just inside of here. And then that will get, I'll tack weld that in there. So that boxes this whole corner in. So on these bumpers, this is always the part that seems to bend. Like on my Ranger, I had the original stock bumper on it. I mean, I ended up having a smiling face on the thing because I kept hitting the corner on rocks when I was out four-wheeling. So this boxes that corner in, gives it some extra strength. Obviously this is already welded up here. Then this is welded on the inside here. So I'll weld all of this in here too to fully box that in. So now that that piece is in, I can do the other side and then go around, weld the whole thing, grind it, paint it, and install it. So that's how this bumper goes together pretty much. Real quick on these, I don't need to weld this bottom here because it'll be in the way of the frame, but this can get all welded across here. And then because these Rangers seem to have floppy frames, it's not always, that's why this one has to be fit. Like this side's different than this side so that I could get it to line up with the body. This one has to overhang a little bit. This one's nice and flush. This one had to gap it a little bit over here. So that's why you kind of got to set it up to fit to the truck. So I'll get that piece tacked in, welded, and then I'll work on getting this bumper all welded up, ground, and then I'll try to get a picture at the end once it's all fully mounted on the truck. Here's the bumper mounted up. My buddy whose truck this is, he's going to bedline it later, so I just left it bare steel now. So these holes down here for lights, right here, are just for some, like, I kind of made them big so you can kind of get a generic. This is just one of the lights off of Amazon. They're like 15 bucks or whatever. But they just go in here like so. They slide in here, and then I just drill in these. You can either tap it or through bolt it and put a nut on the back side, and then wire them into your backup lights or switch or whatever, so you get a little extra light behind you. And then it doesn't clear, then it clears. The shackle, I actually adjusted a little bit for the next one, so when the shackle goes on here, it can't bend over and hit it either. There's enough clearance there. So you can actually pick the truck up off of these with the high lift, so I'll do that next. And that's pretty much it. With these whole back corner, this is all boxed in here, so it's super strong. Then 2 directions on that frame holding it in. Solid bumper. So get a few little pictures and videos, but if you got any questions on these bumpers, let me know. Thanks.